South Africans stuck in war-torn Sudan are finally expected to land today, it's hoped. The repatriation flight was delayed yesterday due to communication issues. Let's get an update now from Gift of the Givers, who play a crucial role in this evacuation. Its founder, Imtiaz Suleiman, joins us virtually from Pietermaritzburg. Thank you so much for your time this morning. As always, Imtiaz, not a straightforward evacuation or repatriation by any means. Can you bring us up to speed as to where we are in the movement of the South Africans, and we also know amongst them non-South Africans as well?
Good morning. We had a very happy phase right now. We finally managed to get everybody out, everybody who wanted to come out. There were 3 South Africans who didn't want to come out. We don't know if there's any more like that, but 3 didn't want to come out. The other ones, we battled yesterday, Thursday and yesterday, to get out 8. There was a bit of a complication because besides the 8 South Africans, there were 2 Americans. But the American husband and daughter it was husband and daughter of a South African lady. So there was no way she was going to leave if they were not cleared. And there was a lot of behind the scenes discussion taking place, what different people within the Sudanese and Egyptian government to allow that to happen. And eventually, late yesterday afternoon, all 8 South Africans and 2 Americans who are, of course, related to the South African woman were allowed to leave. In between, before that, on the first bus, the first 2 buses, there were 38 South Africans, 7 Angolans, and 1 person from Lesotho. All those were cleared, although 8 South Africans were held back for 26 hours. And all this is related to the absence of passports. In that kind of situation, talk about the difficulty in the beginning. The biggest challenge in a situation like this is the availability of buses, fuel, documents. And if you don't have documents, you need consular services at the border. And it's a huge distance to get to that border from Cairo and even from Sudan itself. But that's sorted out. And, besides those 2 groups, the ones that we had at the 3rd bus and the 38 before that, the Angolans, there was also 12 South Africans that on their own got to Port Sudan, and they also got out yesterday, and on their way home today. It's like all of them on their way back home today.
For those who perhaps have not been keeping as close an eye on the story this week alone, can you just take us through step by step? The last we would have heard were people trying to get in touch with the South African embassy. Communication in a situation like the one in Sudan at the moment has been difficult. So that in itself was problematic as well. Can you just take us through step by step how this evacuation process started? They had to move from wherever they were, either in various parts of Sudan, and somehow find their way to the embassy or the port. Can you just take it from there about how somebody in a situation like that would have moved, and then where did they meet up with you as well as the representatives of the South African government in Sudan?
It started on the 15th of April when the first fighting took place, but we didn't get any panic calls. On Monday the 17th, the panic calls started coming from South Africans. Somehow everybody calls us. And they started calling us and saying, we've got a problem. We need to get out of the country. And only at that point realized there was an internal war taking place there. More calls started coming later in the week. And then what was good was all credit go to the South Africans. They organized themselves on a group. Where are you? I'm in this place. Can you come to know it's a problem? There's too much of fighting here. Well, I'm in this place. It's very difficult to get out. So they started arranging a group and started their own communication system. But that's when the problem started. The network was down, up, down. And people were on different networks, either South African, Sudanese, or something else. And in between, they were losing communication. And even the embassy staff was sort of hostage kept. They couldn't move along. It was very difficult. So there were a lot of challenges. And the biggest fear was, how do we get out without passports? And then when people started calling us, then we were not involved in this process. And we suddenly realized people need a lot of help and they need a lot of encouragement because they were losing hope. They were getting anxious. They were getting panicky. And so we started supporting them in terms of moral support. And then I said, okay, can you guys get to the airport? They said, no, it's bombed. We can't get there. So I said, there can't be on airport. Can there be an airport nearby? They found an airport nearby. Then they found, yes, other nationalities are living on that airport. By the time our clearances came through, they was fighting around the airport. You couldn't use it.
Sure.
The next option was to go for buses, but you couldn't get buses. We managed to get buses, but now they want cash money. The country's at a standstill. You can't pay on account or EFT or bank transfer. They want cash money. Fortunately, the embassy had cash money, so they paid for the 2 buses. And then on Sunday night, the communication you're talking about was on Sunday night, last week Sunday night. The message was sent, the bus is going out, two buses are going out tomorrow. 4 South Africans didn't get that message. They got left behind. They only came to know that after the bus was almost 2 hours on the road. They got to the border. The challenge was, as I mentioned earlier, 8 South Africans couldn't go through because they didn't have passports. The diplomatic staff couldn't make it to the border because of Eid holiday. All the flights were cancelled. So it's challenges like that all the time. And it took 26 hours. Eventually, they got out. And the guys who Port Sudan, they were sent by their own companies, and they went there on their own. Because, I mean, these people have been living in Sudan. And the other good thing is it didn't seem like the two opposing sides were actually targeting foreigners. So I think most of them got to the different areas. And from there, of course, there was a problem in Port Sudan. The guys didn't want them to leave. And from the Saudi side, they can't come unless they clearance permission to land with the Saudis. Again, a lot of diplomatic activity, a lot of that done by DIRCO. And we also spoke through, I must bring in somebody here, Advocate Patrick Lewis. He's the UN Special Advisor on Sudan. He made a lot of important calls that helped relieve a lot of pressure.
Now, if you've been keeping eyes on international news, it seems there was a lot of movement on a diplomatic space to get foreigners out of Sudan just in the last 2 or 3 days alone. How important is timing here? Was this the window of opportunity these last few days to get those foreigners out of the country as quickly as possible? This is not your first rodeo. From what you've seen in situations like this across the world, this situation is not going to get any better anytime soon, is it?
No, but there's this. It's not only about the window of opportunity. There's more than that has to be done, because as much a window of opportunity that you have, if you don't have documentation, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And people don't have money, and the bus fare is like $500 per person from Khartoum to the border. Everything becomes expensive. It's not exploitation. They're scared the bus will get bombed, not deliberately, but by accident. And like on Tuesday, when the third bus was about to leave, the driver kept on postponing. I mean, the owner kept on postponing, and we thought, is this guy playing a game or something? And then he came back, he said, my friend, do you guys want to die? I was not there. Told the other group there, would you like to die? Because it's too dangerous now. I can't send you out now. And Wednesday, more challenges. I'll answer your other question now. On Wednesday, we are about to leave, and all the troops started moving to the center of the city for an all-out war. All the armored personnel carriers coming in. And people seeing this and they're terrified because they've been delayed the day before. And you missed the first buses on Monday. It's already Wednesday. The bus driver gets epileptic fit. The bus breaks down. On those kind of challenges. But the company's name is called Good Transporter. He made very good about the transporter. The driver was there very quickly. The bus was fixed. He said, now's the time. We got to leave right now. He was right. Not a single incident all the way to the border. Coming to your question, if you don't have passports, as much as window of opportunity you can have. There's people, we got through from Sudan to Egypt in 4 hours. People are waiting 4 days with no chance of movement. 40 degrees heat, no water, no food, no money. Children with them, old people, panic, anxiety. We need a new dispensation in the UN. When a war happens, when people don't have documentation, the neighboring countries should open up their borders, and let people go through. You can't have people staying like that on the side. It's just a nightmare. And the world bodies need to get more involved faster with food, with water, with anything else. And of course, governments, all the embassies were closed. So people didn't have access for consular services to their own governments. It's just too complicated.
And I suppose for you, in as much as you said it's the happy time of a process like this because you've managed to get a large number of these South Africans and their families out of Sudan, this, I'm sure, is not where the job and the worries of the gift of the givers ends, because like you said, there are many, many people stuck in Sudan. They're citizens of the country who are going to need help and they're going to need aid. What are the next steps for Gift of the Givers? Are you looking to get involved there at the moment?
We're going to try to see what's possible, but you can't get involved in Sudan right now because the war is not between Sudan and another. The war is inside the country, and war serves no purpose. What we need is a rapid intervention from the African Union, from the United Nations to bring peace quickly, and hopefully those people on the border then can come back. Because even though they're running, where are they running to? They've left their houses, they've left their cars, they've left their families, they've left their jobs, they got no money, the banks are closed, they got no access to money. What are they going to do? Where are they going to go to? And so we need, if that thing can stop from the border, they can come back. And another indication of how intense and how severe it was, our first group went to a border called Argim, close to the Aswan, not too far from there. And then when the second group went, the third bus on that Wednesday, that eventually left, as they got to a place called Dongla, the Sudanese traffic police said the road is closed. You can't go to Argin anymore. So they asked why. They said there's just too many cars and too many people. And our teams did verify. The first day they got to the border, there were just thousands of people waiting. So we had to divert to another border. This presented, you talk about challenges, presented another problem. Because all the documentation, everything was at the first border. And the South African diplomats now had to change route and come to a second border. But to cross the Nile River requires permissions. There's bureaucracy, red tape, permission for the bus, permission for the driver, this, that, and the other. They were delayed right till 1:30. They only got to the ferry crossing point at 8:30. They missed the ferry by 5 minutes. It was closed. So they had to find accommodation overnight. You can't find accommodation anywhere. That's another challenge. Next one, you think about go across. Lots of challenges.
I'm sure. And the team that made this possible really need to be applauded. Just final confirmation before I let you go, Imtiaz, just final confirmation about the movement of the big group of South Africans that was evacuated from Sudan. When are they expected back on South African soil?
Tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Imtiaz Suleiman.
Because the plane couldn't tell everybody came from the border. So they were supposed to leave yesterday, and we said there's no way that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Till everybody comes, that plane cannot leave. They're busy with preparations right now. The plane may leave late this afternoon.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your work and for that update, as always. Imtiaz Suleiman with Gift of the Givers joining us virtually there from Pietermaritzburg.